Welcome to the channel Reveal Penny USA, and before we even get started, I want you to take a deep breath, because what you are about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at your loose change forever, and I mean forever, because right now, sitting in someone's coin jar, tucked inside an old dresser drawer, rattling around in the cup holder of a car that hasn't been cleaned in years, there is a quarter, just a plain, ordinary-looking Washington quarter, that most people would spend without a second thought, hand it over for a gumball or drop it in a parking meter, and walk away from what could have been the most important financial discovery of their entire life. And today we are talking about one of the most jaw-dropping, mind-bending, almost impossible to believe coins in the entire history of American numismatics, and that coin is the 1984 D Washington quarter. A coin so deceptively normal in appearance, so unassuming in your hand, that even experienced collectors have passed right over it, and yet, and here is where everything changes, the right example of this coin, the one with the specific characteristics that make serious collectors lose sleep at night, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $1.8 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $1,800,000, for a single quarter, a coin that was minted to be worth 25 cents. A coin that billions of Americans have touched and spent and forgotten about, and yet here we are, talking about $1.8 million, and I need you to stay right here with me through this entire video because not only are we going to break down everything about this extraordinary 1984 D Washington quarter, we are going to talk about what makes it so incredibly rare, why collectors are absolutely obsessed with it, what the specific errors and varieties look like so you know exactly what to search for, and I promise you, by the time this video is done you are going to be rushing to check every single quarter you own. And on top of that, I have to tell you, because I would feel terrible keeping this from you, the coins coming up next in this video make this $1.8 million quarter look like a warm-up. We are talking about coins with values that will make your jaw hit the floor. And I am not going to tell you the numbers yet because I want you to experience that moment the same way I did when I first found out, so keep watching, do not touch that screen, because what is coming next is something you absolutely cannot miss. But first, let us give this incredible 1984 D Washington quarter the full attention it deserves, because this coin has a story, and that story begins in Denver, Colorado, in the year 1984, at the Denver Mint, one of the most storied minting facilities in all of American history, a place that has been producing coins since 1906, a facility that in 1984 was operating at enormous scale, pumping out hundreds of millions of coins to satisfy the insatiable demand of American commerce, and that is exactly the environment in which the rarest coins are born, not in quiet, careful, deliberate moments, but in the chaos of mass production, in the relentless thunder of coin presses striking metal day after day after day, because when you are producing coins by the hundreds of millions, mistakes happen, and some of those mistakes are so extraordinary, so visually dramatic, so numismatically significant that they transform an ordinary 25-cent piece into a treasure worth more than most people's homes, and the 1984 D Washington quarter is the perfect example of exactly that phenomenon, because what collectors are searching for in this specific coin goes far beyond the ordinary. We are talking about a coin where the die, the steel tool used to strike the design into the metal, developed specific doubling characteristics, where the hub, which is the master design tool used to create the working dies, transferred its image in a way that was not perfectly aligned on a subsequent impression, creating what is known in the numismatic world as a double die variety. And when you see this on a coin, when you hold it under a loupe and the letters and the details of George Washington's portrait appear doubled, when the date shows that unmistakable doubling, when the words "I and God we trust" and "liberty" show that ghostly, dramatic shift that tells you something went beautifully, gloriously wrong during the die-making process, your heart starts to beat faster, because you absolutely know, that what you are holding is not just a quarter, it is a piece of American minting history, it is an accident that became an artifact, it is an error that became an heirloom. And the 1984 D Washington quarter in top condition with the most dramatic and visually stunning of these error characteristics is the coin that commands that breathtaking $1.8 million valuation. And to understand why that number is not just real but arguably even conservative when you consider the trajectory of the rare coin market, you have to understand the psychology of serious collectors, because these are not people who buy coins to look at them once and put them in a drawer, these are passionate, driven, Extraordinarily knowledgeable individuals who have spent decades studying American coinage, who understand that a coin like this 1984 D. Washington quarter represents something utterly irreplaceable, because you cannot make more of them. The Denver Mint is not going to accidentally recreate the exact die characteristics that produce this variety, the specific confluence of events, the die wear, the hub doubling, the strike pressure, the planchet quality, that created the most valuable examples of this coin happened once and only once. And that irreplaceability is the engine that drives collector demand into the stratosphere. And when collector demand meets genuine scarcity, when passionate buyers with deep pockets compete for a coin that simply cannot be replaced or reproduced, prices do not just rise, they explode. And the 1984 D Washington quarter has seen exactly that kind of explosive appreciation over the decades since it was first discovered and catalogued by sharp-eyed collectors who spotted something extraordinary in what everyone else dismissed as ordinary pocket change. And can you imagine being that person? Can you imagine being the collector who first looked at this coin under magnification and realized what they were seeing, who felt that electric moment of recognition when the doubling became undeniable, when the significance of the find fully landed, because that moment, that singular, breathtaking, life-changing moment, is what every coin collector is chasing every single time they sit down with a new batch of coins to examine, and it is what you could be chasing the next time you sort through your change, because here is the truth that the mainstream world does not fully appreciate about rare coins: they circulate, they pass through hands, they end up in jars and drawers and old collections that get broken up and redistributed, and a coin like this 1984 D Washington quarter, one of the rarest and most valuable of its kind, could genuinely be sitting somewhere unremarkable right now, waiting to be found, and the person who finds it is going to have their life changed in an instant. And speaking of changed lives and breathtaking discoveries, I need to remind you right now that the coins we have coming up in this video are going to take everything you just felt learning about this $1.8 million quarter and amplify it to levels that are almost hard to process. I am talking about coins from the same era, the same Washington quarter series, that carry values that go beyond what we just discussed in ways that are going to genuinely shock you, and I am building the suspense intentionally because you deserve to experience those reveals at full impact. So stay with me, do not go anywhere, because we are just getting started, and the 1984 D Washington quarter, as extraordinary as it is, as valuable as it is, as deeply fascinating as its story of mint errors and collector obsession and numismatic legend truly is, it is only the beginning of what we have for you today. So keep your eyes on this screen, keep your quarters close, and let us keep going, because the best is absolutely yet to come. Next, 1984 P Washington quarter, and if you thought what we just covered was enough to make your hands tremble the next time you reach into your pocket, then I need you to buckle up right now, because what we are about to talk about takes everything we just discussed and launches it into an entirely different atmosphere, because the 1984 P Washington quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, carrying that small but mighty P mint mark that separates it from its Denver cousin, is a coin that has been valued by serious numismatic experts at an almost incomprehensible $2.4 million, yes, $2,400,000, for a single quarter, a coin that was born in the same year, the same series, the same general production run as the coin we just finished talking about, and yet it commands a value that sits a full $600,000 higher, and the reason for that difference, the reason collectors will pay that kind of money for this specific coin, from this specific mint, is a story that pulls together history, error coinage, die varieties, and the pure electric obsession that drives the rare coin world to its most spectacular heights. And you need to understand that the Philadelphia Mint in 1984 was an absolute powerhouse of production, churning out coins at a scale that boggles the mind. Hundreds of millions of quarters passing through those presses in a single year, each one intended to be identical, each one supposed to be a perfect, unremarkable, spendable 25-cent piece, and in that ocean of sameness, in that relentless flood of ordinary coinage, something extraordinary happened, because the die, that hardened steel instrument responsible for transferring George Washington's portrait and all the surrounding design elements onto each blank planchet, developed characteristics during its creation and use that set certain coins apart from the hundreds of millions of others in ways that are dramatic, undeniable, and, to the trained eye, absolutely thrilling. and what collectors are hunting for in the 1984 P. Washington quarter is a combination of factors that come together in the rarest examples to create a coin that is visually stunning under magnification, numismatically significant in ways that are thoroughly documented, and financially valuable in ways that most people cannot begin to wrap their heads around. Because when you look at the finest known examples of this coin's most sought-after varieties, when you examine the doubling on the date, when you study the way certain design elements show that telltale shift that marks a true double die variety, when you hold this coin next to a standard 1984 P. Washington quarter and see with your own eyes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary, something shifts in your understanding of what pocket change can truly be. And the Philadelphia Mint's history adds another layer of significance to this coin that cannot be ignored, because Philadelphia is the original United States Mint, the oldest, the most storied, the facility that has been producing American coinage since 1792, and there is something deeply poetic about the fact that this grand old institution, this birthplace of American numismatic history, produced in 1984 a coin so flawed, so gloriously and accidentally imperfect, that it would go on to be worth more than most Americans earn in 20 years of hard work, and the auction history surrounding the finest examples of the 1984 P. Washington quarter reads like a thriller novel, with collectors emerging from decades of quiet searching to present coins that stunned the room, that generated bidding wars among some of the most sophisticated and wealthy numismatists in the world, that crossed the auction block and landed at prices that made headlines in the coin collecting community and left observers shaking their heads in disbelief, because $2.4 million is not a number that anyone takes lightly. It is not a number that gets attached to a coin without extraordinary justification, and the 1984 P. Washington quarter in its finest, rarest, most aerodramatic form absolutely justifies every single penny of that valuation. And here is what I want you to sit with for a moment. Here is the thought that I want to plant in your mind and let grow. The Philadelphia Mint produced this coin in massive quantities, which means that while the rarest varieties are genuinely scarce, the coin itself passed through the hands of millions of ordinary Americans. It rode in wallets and purses and piggy banks, it got spent on newspapers and coffee and toll roads, it moved through the economy the way all coins do, invisibly and unremarkably, and somewhere along the way, some of those rarest examples survived. They found their way into collections or jars or forgotten envelopes, and they are waiting, right now, for someone with the knowledge and the attention to recognize what they are looking at, and that someone could be you, watching this video, learning exactly what to look for, building the expertise that transforms an ordinary coin search into a life-changing discovery. And I want you to stay right here with me because we have one more coin left in today's video, and I have been saving it for last for a very specific reason, because everything we have talked about today, the $1.8 million $1,984 D and this extraordinary $2.4 million $1,984 P. As spectacular as they both are, they have been building towards something even bigger, even more shocking, even more dramatic, and the final coin in this video carries a value that I promise you is going to stop you cold. It is going to make you replay this video just to make sure you heard the number correctly, so do not move, do not click away, because the grand finale of today's video is coming right now and it is worth every second of your time. Next, 1983 D Washington quarter, and everything we have built toward today, every incredible number we have revealed, every jaw-dropping story we have told about mint errors and collector obsession and life-changing discoveries hiding in plain sight, it has all been leading to this single, extraordinary, almost unbelievable moment, because the 1983 D Washington quarter, struck at the Denver Mint 1 year before the two coins we just finished discussing, is a coin that exists in a category so rare, so numismatically significant, so deeply coveted by the most serious collectors in the world, that its value has been placed at $3.6 million, $3,600,000, for a single quarter, a single 25-cent piece that rolled off the presses at the Denver Mint in 1983 and entered circulation looking for all the world like every other quarter in existence. And yet it is worth more than a luxury penthouse in Manhattan, more than a fleet of the finest automobiles ever built, more than most people will accumulate across an entire lifetime of working and saving and dreaming. And the reason this coin sits at the absolute pinnacle of everything we have discussed today, the reason it carries a value that dwarfs even the spectacular numbers attached to the 1984 D and the 1984 P Washington quarters, comes down to a perfect storm of factors that align so rarely, so improbably, that when they do come together in a single coin, the numismatic world essentially stops breathing, because the 1983 Washington quarter occupies a uniquely important position in American coinage history, and to understand why you have to go back to Denver in 1983, to a mint that was producing coins under enormous pressure, meeting production quotas that demanded speed and volume above almost everything else, and it is in exactly that kind of high-pressure, high-volume environment that the most dramatic and valuable minting errors are born, because the dies used to strike these coins were working constantly, being pushed to their limits, and as dies wear and stress and develop the kind of microscopic imperfections that mass production inevitably creates, something remarkable can happen. The design itself can begin to shift, to double, to show characteristics that no quality control process can fully prevent when you are striking coins by the hundreds of millions. And what emerged from that Denver Mint production run in 1983 in the rarest and most spectacular examples of this coin is a double die variety so dramatic, so visually undeniable, so thoroughly documented by the numismatic community that it stands as one of the most significant error coins of the entire modern Washington quarter series, with doubling that appears on the date, on the motto, on the portrait of George Washington himself, creating a coin that under magnification tells the story of a single extraordinary mechanical moment when everything went gloriously, magnificently wrong, and that wrongness, that beautiful, accidental, irreproducible wrongness, is worth $3.6 million to the collectors who understand what they are looking at, and you have to appreciate the psychological dimension of what drives a collector to pay that kind of money, because it is not simply about owning something expensive, it is about owning something irreplaceable, something that cannot be commissioned or manufactured or recreated under any circumstances. Because the specific combination of die characteristics, strike quality, planchet perfection, and preservation that defines the finest known examples of the 1983 Washington quarter happened once in history and will never happen again, and when serious collectors encounter genuine irreplaceability, when they come face to face with a coin that represents a singular moment in American minting history that is frozen forever in metal, price becomes almost secondary to the burning, consuming need to own it. And the auction rooms where examples of this coin have appeared have witnessed some of the most intense and emotionally charged bidding in the history of numismatic sales, with collectors who have spent decades searching for this coin finally sitting across from the opportunity they have dreamed about, willing to go to whatever number it takes because they understand with absolute clarity that if they let this moment pass they may never see another example again in their lifetime. And that urgency, that FOMO that is not manufactured or artificial but is rooted in genuine scarcity and genuine passion, is what pushes the value of the 1983 Washington quarter to heights that leave casual observers stunned and speechless. And here is the thought I want to leave you with as we close out today's extraordinary journey through these three incredible coins, because everything we have talked about, the 1984D at $1.8 million, the 1984P at $2.4 million, and this magnificent 1983D at $3.6 million, all of it points to a single truth that should change the way you interact with coins for the rest of your life, and that truth is this: ordinary is often hiding extraordinary, the most valuable things are sometimes the most overlooked things, and the quarter that you almost spent this morning without a second glance could be carrying a secret worth millions. And the only difference between the person who discovers that secret and the person who never does is knowledge, attention, and the willingness to look more carefully at the world right in front of them. So check your quarters, check your old jars and forgotten coin collections and the change sitting in your car, because the coins we talked about today are out there, they are in circulation or in collections waiting to be properly identified. And the next great discovery in American numismatics might not come from a professional collector or an auction house, it might come from you, armed with what you learned today, finally seeing what was always right there in plain sight.